One thing I know about Cicerone for our 25 years is that we've always laddered our work right down to the business result, not the impression levels of a
Mhm.
campaign. But it seems to me, because those crutches are sort of going away, we now get to use all of this richer data,
Mhm.
first party data, the data that our clients own already that has very deep insights. And if we're already using super rich data, sort of going into planning and how to activate campaigns and so forth, there's only one thing to measure. And at the end of the day, it's like, did the client's business grow or didn't it?
Mhm.
I mean, isn't
Mhm.
that sort of what's being forced here? And isn't that something that we've all been wanting forever?
The cookie conversation is the conversation starter, and that's why I think it has to be looked at that way. Is it might be a way in, it might be something that you can look at as your opportunity to bring light to all these other issues that we need to solve for, and along the way you solve for the cookie problem, but at the same time it's the cookie problem is not the actual problem, but let's use that to open up these conversations and make it work.
With sympathy towards people who have 80 things on their to-do list and they're all number one
Hmm.
priority, I think that things like the cookie, right, have enabled some of these discussions to fall lower onto the notebook, right, of my to-do list for the day or the year or whatever. Now, what this is doing is it's re-energizing and reinvigorating this opportunity to have some more mindful and thoughtful planning discussions around what you want your comms to do. And we've been talking about this for a while, but also just revisit some of these things, I think is terribly exciting, and it provides an awful lot of opportunity for clients.
So, one of the things that I know that I've been hearing from everybody on our team is that these changes don't necessarily affect as many channels as people think. It's a big deal in the programmatic space. It's less of a deal, obviously, in search and everything else. What is this really going to affect? And then what is it not going to affect?
So, I mean, when you think about pixels, I think a lot about remarketing, lookalike audiences, some of that type of information. And then you get the behavioral targeting
Mhm.
from pixel data from third parties. So, in that sense, when you think about it in that broad spectrum, it affects a lot of different things. But what's happening at the same time is the data providers and the different partners that we work with are coming up with solutions that
Mhm.
will be more unified across all the platforms that will still have access to buy third party data. I think it'll come in a different form. And then there's things that you can do on your own sites to help, trigger some things from a remarketing standpoint or lookalike audiences. There'll be options for us. It's just going to look a little bit different. And that's for us to figure out and that's for us to work through. From a client perspective, you might not feel how different it is for you, but I think, it does affect a lot of different things across the spectrum.
This is a bit of a moving target, to be perfectly transparent.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that, as an industry, as an ad tech industry, are coming to terms with in early 2021 here, with this looming deadlines. But we've got a lot of organizations, a lot of partners that we work with regularly who have teams and teams and teams of people who are trying to solve for X on this. Folks like ComScore or LiveRamp or the Trade Desk, all working through different solutions to try to at least mitigate some of the things that are going to be at risk with Google's decision here to move the third party cookie. I think one other thing that's also interesting, that's a bit of an unexpected fallout, is things like brand lift studies that are powered by third-party cookies are also going to be drastically impacted, right?
Mhm.
Just to show that these cookies sort of permeate in areas not directly tied to the actual media by itself, but also just performance and attribution on the back end too. But again, folks are trying to solve for X, and it may look different in the end, and it'll be a bit of a bumpy road along the way. But it's our job to help our clients navigate what that space looks like and try to bring forward the best recommendation based on the options available to us, to minimize that pain point that clients would feel.
Cool.
And what I think is exciting right now is that it's not happening yet. There's, like you said, there's these changes that people are working through. But at this point, we can start to test things along the way. We can start to identify what do we have access to? What don't we have access to? What are things that we can test against our current strategies and see, start to get some understandings of how could this look, a year from now and how can we find success within that?